Hey there folks, Jason here again, BLB Wargaming, and haven't come up with a new title. Not sure what I'm going to do quite yet, but that is neither here or there. What I'm here to talk to you about on a cold and windy Saturday night, at least where I am, is kind of an introduction, a bit of a ramble on a branch that the channel is going to be taking that I've officially embarked on today after fits and starts. And that's getting my son into wargaming. I've mentioned this previously, but I had a really good experience with him today. I want to talk a little bit about and kind of the way forward on the channel. Obviously, any of you that have children out there, particularly boys that might be interested, although girls should be doing this too, and all the games I'm talking about, girls would be as good as or probably better. I find girls at young ages are a bit sharper than boys. But anyways, so I've talked about him before. My son Andy, he's 7 years old. He's super interested in wargaming, largely because I think his dad does it. And at this age, before they get a little older and hate everything about you, they love everything about you. So I'm going to embrace that as much as I can. So obviously, I've been interested in wargaming for a long time, and I've wanted my son to get interested in wargaming for a long time. He's now kind of at the age where he would get the strategy side. So what I want to do is walk through really quick kind of the steps I've taken previously, the game systems I'm looking at now, and then what you'll expect to see on the channel. Both in terms of the occasional battle report, we'll see how that goes, and kind of my thoughts. So I'm going to create a separate playlist for this, and then if there's moms and dads out there that want to get their kids into wargaming, this might be a place they can go, or if you have your own experiences. Some of you have already left me some suggestions, and I appreciate them a lot, and I've taken some of them into account, and just kind of an evaluation of my son, where he is, what he's interested in, keeping the attention of a 7-year-old, and kind of successes and failures with that. So the first thing I kind of tried doing with Andy, and we still would do it occasionally, and I'm going to try to keep some of this, make sure it's on camera, is started him out a couple years ago with Heroica. Now Heroica, if you're not familiar with it, is a Lego-based system where, let me flip the box over here. This is a small box just because I could fit on the screen. They've got, I think I own all of them. They've got 5 or 6 different scenarios that you can play, and basically you build a dungeon or a fort. Most of them are underground, I think. And they can all interlock, and you can have one person playing like the dungeon master, basically, and then you get individual characters, and they're not full-size Lego figures. They're smaller than that. So the kids get to practice putting together stuff, and then you work your way through this map to try to defeat a bad guy and get some kind of gem or something. You can see here there's a die. So it gets the kids. Andy liked it because he introduces the role-playing thing a little bit. That's something I've dabbled in before. I can't say I'm a heavy role player, but I want him to use his imagination. He gets familiar with using dice. He kind of strategizes, the best way to go through a dungeon. Most of the dungeons are a lot bigger than this one. Again, I picked the smallest box that I had. And so we could set up a whole table's worth of stuff, and I'd hoped he'd get more involved with it with his friends, and it'd be a good, I think it was a team experience, and he could do it with me too, and he uses Legos. I'm a huge fan of Legos. So this took off for a while, and if I set it up, he would still play it, and he'd probably be very excited about it. He hasn't asked about it much, though, because he doesn't see this as much. He's identified this as much with what I do. But this, I think, is a great place to start where kids are a little bit younger. The ages say 7 or up. I did this when Andy was 5 and just helped him through it. So that's where I started in kind of the wargaming thing, because we could set up a whole table and it would look an awful lot like what I was doing with Warhammer and other things. And so since we've been back in the U.S., and he's asked a lot about Warhammer, he just refers to wargaming as Warhammer because that's what I've done the most of, I kind of looked around at some different systems and different ways to kind of get him introduced to it. And the first one I tried, I didn't actually pick up because of him. I picked up because I wanted to try it out myself. But then I used it for him, and I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Golem Arcana. There we go, focus. So this was a Kickstarter that I invested in, and it was pre-painted miniatures, but it was all you could play it off of the iPad. It was a digital gaming system. You could play with dice, but what you do is, and I am not a technology buff, so if I get something wrong and you want to correct me, please do. So the figures all come pre-painted, and you use basically a giant stylus, and through the magic of modern technology that I don't understand, I sound like an old man, you have an app on your iPhone or your iPad, and it might work on Android or other devices too, where essentially it's making a Wargaming go digital. So you tap a figure, and you tap a location on the board, or you tap another figure that you're going to attack, and you can pick the attack on the screen, and it rolls it for you, and somehow it can keep track of where you are on the table, so it can do area of effect attacks, and a host of other things. And I liked the idea of this because, one, you can see here it comes in the box. This came with Kickstarter. I didn't buy this separately, so I got a good deal on it. Figures come pre-painted, and my son loves iPads. Most kids these days love iPads, I found, in electronic devices. So I thought this might be a way to get him engaged. To be honest, I haven't spent a lot of time. What's the best way to do this? Okay. I haven't spent a lot of time kind of going into the background, but I will say I haven't really gotten that excited about the game, and it's still a little wonky. And some of that could be my fault playing. We set up the game a couple weekends ago and gave it a shot, and he just kind of wasn't getting it. Partially because I was learning my way through it too, and that's one of the lessons I've learned with this is, if you're, as the parent, are flailing through trying a new game with your son or daughter, at least in my experience, I found that they have a really hard time. You have a hard time keeping their attention. Normally, I found that my son has about 45 minutes or an hour's worth of attention on a good day, and then he's 7, so he's not going to have kind of the mental focus. So I need to kind of scope the games and build in the setup. Either I do the setup myself or give about an hour's worth of time from start to finish to play a game. And this is a skirmish game, so you can play with these 3 models or about that on each side. But there's some wonkiness in the system. I don't know how successful Golem Arcana is going to be. I think it's a great idea. I will have to play around with it some more too. Also, the figures aren't that well painted in comparison with another game system that we just played tonight, and I'll talk about that in a second. So this was the other game I tried. I don't think it went over that well with him. He hasn't asked about it anymore. So I'll probably play with this some more because I've got a bunch of stuff in my gaming shelf that I should do something with or get rid of. But at this point, I'm not sure I could, sell it for even the shipping cost. So this one, Golem Arcana, I'll talk more about this if we play it more, because I don't like to do any evaluation of a game unless it's super positive, just based on one go through. So my second attempt was Golem Arcana by Harebrained Schemes, and I would say it might be okay for adults. I may just be playing it right, but for kids, at least a 7-year-old, I would give it a pass. So then the next game I picked up was something completely different, and I am a big fan of painted armies. I hope that I will pass that same sentiment along to my son. Oh, man, I don't think this is going to fit on the camera. So, see if I can get a rule book out or something. Yeah, we'll do that. So, and then I'm a big fan of video games, particularly kind of the 8-bit stuff, which Andy doesn't have a whole lot of interest in. But I wanted a board game-ish kind of thing too, where we could practice painting. So I picked up Super Dungeon Explorer. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with this. And I'm going to try to dig through this. Hopefully it's not going to make a tremendous amount of noise. Apologies if the video sounds bad. Here we go. So this is one of those games where it's kind of you're a team. It's based on old 8-bit Nintendo games and things along those lines. And one person is a dungeon master. They call him the Dark Consul, and he controls all the bad guys. Which I don't know if anybody's played Gauntlet before. I'm sure some of you have, where things get spawned out and you have to go kill them, and you get treasure, and your characters get pumped up with different loot, and you make your way through this dungeon. You have to fight a boss. So I really like the idea of this. It's something he can grow into. You can start with a small group of adventurers. Basically, the most of the players play as the heroes, and one person plays as the dungeon, essentially. But what I liked about this, and getting back to the painting a little bit, is all the models come unpainted, and I wasn't too anxious about it. Well, some of the models are pretty detailed. Other ones, though, are pretty simple. And I kind of want Andy to be introduced to the hobby side, the painting side of the hobby, too. And he's 7 going on 8, so he's not quite there yet. But some of the models are pretty simple, and it's something he can practice on. Because I could give Andy a bunch of old GW Orcs or something, and I don't think it's going to resonate that well. But maybe if I can start him... So here's a picture of the boss... Dragon Starfire, and I wouldn't start him on something like this, but there are smaller ones. I guess I'm going to tear open a bag here and kind of let him, you know, this is a way for me to be able at some point to kind of teach him some basics, right? So here is, let's see if I can show this. All right, camera, let's see what you do with this. Come on. There we go. So this is, I'm still not showing up that well. Sorry, folks. Camera's not helping out tonight. Although that seems to be a common theme on this channel, right? So these are, and you get dozens of these in the game. Just small little hatchling things. You put them on a base. And you can paint them up and you can make them look kind of really nice. But they're simple to paint, and I'm not that worried about if they kind of look weird. So this gets him, one, invested in the hobby, invested in the game, and I can start... It's good for their kids' brains to do art. It's not like he's not doing it at school, but it's something he can do with his dad. I think he'd appreciate that. And he takes ownership of something that he paints. Because a lot of the games I'm thinking about doing are already painted, whether it's Golem Arcana or something else. So this is one I think we're going to kind of hold off on a little bit because I need to learn the rules. And it's also something that I can play with adult friends too. I've got some folks that have kind of expressed some mild interest in it in a gaming group that's kind of slowly standing up for me. But that's an adult thing too, with my nerd friends. So that kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone. How much time do I have left? I have 6 minutes. So that was picked up. Then I also picked up... Where did I put it? Okay. And this one, a common theme I'm trying to have is to get him engaged in kind of the universe of the game. And that was one of my problems with Golem Arcana, was it's tough. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't get what these creatures are. And frankly, I haven't really gotten the backstory yet. Like, if I want to talk to him about Warhammer 40K, which is way too violent of a game, I could tell him all about it, and he could understand what Space Marine was, right? Some of the other ones are a little bit more obscure, but... So a lot of times it's easy to start with if it's something he already knows about or I can show him. And 2, because Daddy's paying for it, Daddy's got to be interested in it too. So I saw this also a while back on Kickstarter, and I didn't join the Kickstarter, but a hobby shop nearby was had a good deal on these because these are a little pricey. So this is Robotech, and Robotech was an anime cartoon series that I remembered as a kid. And loved it. And so this is 28mm. These guys are huge, so it's, I guess it's not 28mm. The figures are about the size of 28mm, but it's like 6mm or 15mm because they're giant robots. And so in here, you can fight basically as Veritech fighters. I just grabbed this box because it's small, versus the Zentradi. And I thought he might be interested in it if I showed him the Robotech show. We tried watching it last weekend or the weekend before. And I loved it. You know, I had the Transformer. A friend of mine had the Transformer, and I borrowed it. You know, the show really resonated with me when I was growing up. Andy watched it, and he was kind of like, Dad, this is really old. And so he didn't get that excited about it. And I was kind of, deflated, one, because maybe it's kind of the way my dad felt about Howdy Doody here in the U.S. And I was like, Dad, that show stinks. Well, the torch has been passed because now I'm getting dumped on. So, and I don't know if you've done any reading on the Robotech RPG tactics game. Apparently the models are incredibly fiddly to put together. So this one might be on hold for a while until he's a little bit older. But because I have 4.5 minutes left, I want to talk about the last game that actually was a success. Because kind of everything I've said so far either hasn't tried out or doesn't seem to look like it's going to pan out. But so I can say that my son and I had our first kind of really successful war game tonight, and you probably may have guessed what it might be. So we had our first game of XWing, and I think XWing kind of knocked it out of the park for a host of reasons. One, it's pretty cheap. This starter set I think I got for like $65 on Amazon. The rule set, especially the starter rules, I mean, the regular rules are a little bit more advanced. The starter rules aren't too bad. And it got him thinking about strategy, and I kept trying to tell him, I mean, I could teach him chess, but like, Andy, you got to make sure you think ahead and what I'm going to do and what you're going to do. And it's also a game that can easily be calibrated. So I let him be the X-Wing, and so the game comes with, the box is empty because I've got it set up out in the other room, an X-Wing and 2 TIE fighters. So he loves Star Wars. So immediately he's identified with, he knows the backstory, again, which he didn't know earlier. He knows what an X-Wing and a TIE fighter are. He knows what the good guys and the bad guys are. He gets it. The rule system and the movement system is pretty intuitive. There's not a whole lot of extra rules in the basic set. You don't have to worry about, you just are you within range of your guns or not. There's not range zones kind of thing. So he liked that. The game's intuitive, like I said. I've got a board set up, and actually I did a battle report with him tonight, which I'm going to work on after I get this video done. And the miniatures are cool. And let me just flip these guys up, and it's not like I'm the first person to talk about this, but if you're not familiar, they come pre-painted, and you saw the other ones, but these guys are pretty awesome. So that's pre-painted model right out of the box. And so I opened it up, and I kind of read through the rules. Now I knew what it was going to look like before. Kind of had a sense. And then here's the TIE fighter. Okay, and there's the TIE fighter. So it comes with 2 TIE fighters. And it's also a game I could calibrate. So I made sure that my pilots were the Academy pilots, and I didn't give him Luke Skywalker because he has some extra rules. But I gave, he got a little bit of an advantage his first game. I still ended up beating him, which I felt a little bad about, but I also don't want to let him win all the time. It wasn't it's not like I crushed him immediately. So I think the game went really well, and he seemed excited about it. And that's the most important thing, because you need to keep your kids engaged, and you want them to be happy, too. You don't want to start with a soul-crushing for kids Napoleonics. This is a game he can get excited about, and it's pretty cheap for me to expand, and frankly, if he gets birthday money or something and he wants to buy the Millennium Falcon or Slave One or, a TIE Advanced, he can. And that way he's involved in the hobby. It's not just Dad throwing stuff at him. There's enough room to grow an X-Wing where you can have bigger battles. I can still keep it simple. I can calibrate it more easily than a bigger war game like Bolt Action or something, or the other ones out there. So I'm still going to move forward on Super Dungeon Explorer and some of the other ones. I think this is a good place to start. And I have a minute left on the video here, which stinks. But so it keeps my ramble short. So I'm going to start posting occasional Batreps and things and my thoughts, kind of like a vlog on getting my son more involved in wargaming. So if you have any thoughts, or if you have any suggestions or any questions or things you'd like me to talk about, please post below. I'm going to work on the battle report as I'm getting this video ready, so there'll be 2 things out. I'd welcome your thoughts. Please be gentle on my son. I think most of you, almost all of you out there will be, but I'm not going to tolerate anybody kind of bad-mouthing him, because he is really excited, and he actually asked or he seemed amenable to doing a video with me talking about what he likes about wargaming. So this is a big deal. It's kind of a proud papa moment. So I'm going to stop this here as I've got 15 seconds left. So hope you guys are having a great weekend. I'd welcome your thoughts. I'm going to come up with a pithy name for this segment. But anyways, great weekend for you guys, and keep on wargaming.